sculpture?
What inspired me to make this sculpture?
Yeah.
Grenaa Musik- og Kunstforening contacted me in March and asked if I wanted to come make a sketch for a sculpture for the Jubilee, 75 Jubilee of the Union, or what you say. And at that time, the Ukraine war just blasted out, and the war in Ukraine, and we've just gone through 2 years of Corona, and it was just such an overwhelming feeling that the understanding I had of what the world looked like, and I think most people had, that it just collapsed again. We thought that what we knew was a stable Europe suddenly wasn't so stable anymore. And this sense of what we think was our reality suddenly splintered in some way, you know? And so I wanted to make an artwork that somehow contained some sort of fractions and nearly like nearly like reflections, multi-plant world reflections, if you can say so, where when you look at it, it nearly looks like a glitch or distortion, but also you see your usual world like reflected in several different places, and the sky is suddenly near the ground, and the ground is in the sky, and it shows that the world is multifaceted. So it was actually more from a feeling what it was like to be a human in March this year. Also because they wanted this sculpture to be a moment, to mark this year. So I also thought it should mark what it was like to be a human right now.
We wanted to ask you a question, if your work actually pays off all the expenses for living.
Yes, but it takes a long time and a lot of hard work. It doesn't do it in the beginning, but it does when you stay focused. It does, hopefully. It's not unfortunately, it's not a guarantee, but it's worth a try.
Why do you only use metal materials?
I actually use a lot of different materials, but I personally love to work with metal. So it's the medium I actually am the most happy working with. But I also worked with marble and actually robotic performance piece that was inside a satellite looking sculpture, and worked with resin. But I think it's like if you feel comfortable drawing, you know, you feel your ideas can just flow through you easily. I feel that way when I work with metal.
So I would like to ask you if your sculptures has something like deeper meaning.
I would say so, but my work doesn't have a deeper meaning written on it with big letters. You have to experience it yourself. It's mostly abstract art that has suggestive to either landscapes or other elements, and so for me, I think it's very important to keep artworks open, to allow the viewer to come in and have their own interpretation and find their own deeper meaning.
How do you keep your motivation as an artist? Because, as Sophia said earlier, it's kind of hard. And what would you say to young people that actually want to start being an artist, knowing how hard it is?
So that's two questions.
Yeah, I'm so
One
sorry.
is,
It's just
okay, I will happily answer both questions. They're both very, very relevant. I mean, I think everyone, no matter what you were, you would go through hard time and motivation. Also me as an artist, you go through phases, but the more you learn to live with being an artist, you also learn coping mechanisms. So for instance, when I feel super uninspired, I know I need to feed myself with information. I read a lot, I see a lot of exhibitions, I travel a lot. I try to take in as much and hoping for that something catches I find interesting. So I think to stay motivated, you gotta feed the engine.
Nice.
And the second question was regarding how to to become an artist in that is so difficult.
Yeah, what would you say to young artists that would actually want to?
I think actually the most crucial years are the years you're studying at art school, because that's like the whole foundation, and you learn you get really strong colleagues, and during those years I think it's most important to organize your own exhibitions, do artists run spaces? Because I started up, I had no CV, so we had to invent our own CV. So we just became each other's curators, did exhibition in random spaces, basements, I mean, you name it, every kind of weird space. I did an exhibition in a garage in Mexico City that was organized by some of my friends. So actually, this idea that you have to sit around and be discovered does not exist. You have to create your own opportunities.
Why did you choose to do sculptures instead of like another art form?
Yes, so I think actually that comes a little bit back to like how come I felt just naturally welding. It was something that clicked with me. And also very similar, I've never been good at drawing, I've never been good at painting, I've never been good at taking a good photograph, but I've always been really, really interested actually in clothes and installation and sculpture. And for me, I just think three-dimensional. I'm excited about why things exist in the world the way they do and how our body relates to it. So for me, that was actually just a very natural connection.
When you change the style from like previous installations that were more square shapes, triangles, to coming to 2021 or 2022 we saw more rounded shapes in all the sculptures. Is it something that changed or?
Absolutely. I think for me as an artist, it's like important to constantly explore new fields. Like for instance, the pieces that was very triangular was like for me a deep study into how to disrupt the habitual space and how to interrupt like the habitual space, kind of actually similar to this sculpture, also disrupt the natural space around the square and interfere in kind of a disruptive way with the cars, with the lamppost, and it's kind of what you say, alien to the lived urban environment. And then I got really interested in outer space. What would a future habitat in outer space look like? And also I wanted to challenge myself in a different way, and I started working these like near future scenario sculptures of what a mined asteroid would look like. And so essentially I think every step is actually for me to motivate. A little bit going back to motivation, you need to keep yourself challenged.
So why do you prefer to create an abstract work?
I feel like abstract works, even though the abstract, you have to understand everything physical and figurative. Because abstract work exists exactly in the awkward points where other things don't exist. And I really like that. Where it's like in between table and a chair, what is that? That's like nothing, you know? Like we have certain rules that we all our bodies know how to behave. We know how to go through a door when it's 80 centimeters. We have all these like, programmed habitual behavior in our bodies, and I'm really interested in those spaces between.
What makes you choose the color for the sculptures?
Excuse me?
What makes you choose the color of the sculptures?
For this sculpture,
Or maybe in general, I think.
I mean, for me, blue represents like infinity. It has like this kind of, infinity. It's deep and it's dreamy and it's like elements from the sky falling down. And also within our history, it's also, the representation of deep space.
What inspired you to do Reorbit 2021?
So it's actually just this concept that we are generating. This term called the Anthropocene. The Anthropocene is a term that some geologists define this time we live in, where human has impacted our planet so much that it's changing the geology of Earth. And we are trapped, ever since human went into outer space, we left trash. And we are also not just changing the Earth's geology, but we are also changing the lower orbits natural environment with all this junk, kind of like what we do with the seas. And the more trash we put out there, we're actually creating a seal that it might be too dangerous one day to actually to go into outer space, because if these debris hit a space rocket, it will explode. So in a lot of ways you can say it's parallel to how we actually treat the oceans.
So on that happy note, I think we came round not all your questions, but every question. Yes.
Did you study physics?
No, but I'm very interested in philosophy and physics. But I think that's the thing with an artist, you don't have to study anything, you can get interested in it on a philosophical level, understand how it interferes with the world. So I'm very interested in physics, I'm very interested in geology, I'm very interested in politics, I'm also very interested in astrology and myths, so there's whatever feeds the engine. It's very important to do lots of research.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Of course.